Good morning, everyone. We'll give a few minutes, see how many people we collect, and then we'll get going. Joe is not here today, so I'm going to try to run the meeting as best I can. I'm sure Sridhar or others will help me if I need it. I don't have any topics myself, so I'm going to call for topics here at the top of the meeting, and we'll see what we have to deal with today. Okay, 7:05. So I guess this is our group for the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, I see we just picked up Paul, so that's good.
Yes, sorry about that. Running a little late.
So I'll repeat my opening comments for the first group that was on, that Joe is not here today or for the next few weeks. So as vice chair, I guess it's my responsibility to at least push the meeting along as best I can. As part of that, I don't have any standing topics that we're scheduled to address today. So I guess we're going to survey the room, address any topics any individuals bring up, and then we can have a discussion on anything. Maybe we want to talk a little bit about what we heard last week from the Comcast gentleman. And then if that all goes quickly, I guess we'll end early. We'll see. So
Perfect.
with that, does anyone want to volunteer an agenda topic for today?
Do. I would like to, so ARM has again generously offered OPI space in their booth at the OCP conference. So we didn't think that was going to happen. Mark came back from his sabbatical and worked his magic and got us some booth space there, similar to what we had last year. Monitor on a desk that we can show demos at. So what I need to know is who is going to be able to be at that show and who would be able to start assisting by manning that booth at the show. I will be there. I'll be able to man a portion of it. Don't want to be the only one there manning the booth the entire time. So looking for assistance.
And this is in San Jose, right, Paul?
It's in San Jose. So
Paul, a lad here, you can count me in, just like
okay,
last year.
perfect. Thank you, sir. We'll figure out timing and all that extra stuff down the road. I just wanted to get a sense for who's going to be at the show or able to be at the show for a portion of it, and man that booth and answer questions as people may have them.
I'll be there. I probably could help a little bit.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve.
I can check internally with within Marvel.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chita. Good. Well, to me, that seems like with us, I don't know if Laura Hendrickson from F5 is going. She's requested it. I don't know what budget for her has been. And or one of my counterparts, Cyrus, from our biz dev group, he may be there and able to do some. So he was there last year. Perfect. Thank you. That was that one. That's all I had.
Well, it sounds like we got enough volunteers, so that's good.
Yeah. Yep. I'll go back to Mark and let him know this. Mark will probably assist as well. And we'll go from there. Oh, and I'll
Okay.
bring I have for those folks that are at the booth, I have OPI shirts if you want them. They're black polos with an OPI logo on them. Got those a bit ago, and this will be the first show we could sport that OPI wear.
Yeah, they're quite handsome, Paul. And
Yes, you've got yours, don't you?
I had the inside track on that. So.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so if that's OCP, do we have any other topics?
There was a gentleman that we spoke with out of the use case group, and he had a very interesting case, and I pinged Joe about it. I wanted to bring it up in the General Assembly meeting. His name is John Graham, and he's from UC San Diego.
Yeah.
And he basically said that they're managing one of the biggest and most distributed clouds in the US across multiple universities and research centers. And they have a use case for us that they would like to work on with us. These guys are extremely hands-on. They know their code. They know how to program FPGAs. They know how to program DPUs, IPUs. So it's something that should be right up our alley.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to invite him to this forum to explain the specific use case that he's interested in and to start working on it, really. By the way, the recording is available in the use case group if you want to hear what he explained to us. So you're more than welcome to go into Slack and listen to it.
So I remember a lot of the material about his background and the background of the UC San Diego networking. Can you remind me, Alad, if you remember exactly how he was applying DPUs going forward?
Yeah, they're building this network that connects clusters of compute across multiple universities and multiple research centers, so they need access. So his main thing was, if I remember correctly, routing, IPsec, and VPNing. That was a big part of what he was looking at. So basically building gateways and enabling them to do tunneling and support tenants.
Okay.
So he had a list of functionalities that he was interested in, and I think the main one was building a gateway. But let me go back to my notes, and I'll be able to be more precise.
Yeah, that's interesting. That would be consistent with Comcast using routing as a lead use case for DPU deployment.
Yeah, Comcast is using it for multiple things, as we heard from Bob. But Comcast, unlike this guy, Comcast is still, as you heard again last week, it's more of the, oh, I have some NICs and I'm thinking about moving some stuff to DPU. And in this case, I do use a DPU. In that case, I don't. And they're looking to consolidate. This guy is already using DPUs and IPUs and even FPGA-based cards for multiple reasons. And he's extremely hands-on and technical. So he can actually put some engineering into it and some coding into it, and give us some more code to use.
Perfect.
I have one question, if I may. So he's using the DPU and the IPUs as their gateway, right, in order to have access to the system, having also some VPN functionality. So can we say, I haven't watched the recording yet, but can we say that the OPI VPN gateway solution that we have today in OPI could be a potential solution for what he has on his cloud environments?
It's a part of the solution. It's a start. It's not the full solution that he's looking for. I'm looking through my notes to see what he actually what he exactly said would be the first, because I had a very long conversation with him prior to the chat. So I need to find exactly. I asked him to focus on one or two things that he wants to focus on, and I keep looking at my notes. I need to find it here. What was the number one and number two things that he asked for? But again, I urge you to listen to the recording and listen to his description, because they do a lot of stuff. They run P4. They use FPGAs for some routing and DPUs for other pieces of the routing. So really interesting setup. And during the call, I believe he dives into this and explains a bit more of how the setup is built. They are looking for high speed, so 200, 400. But I know that they have use cases for less as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because today we have a fully VPN solution for IPUs at least, okay, in OPI that can actually implement the basic EVPN functionality. And right now, by the end of Q3, we are gonna propose also ECMP that we have already ready and we are testing right now. And also Q4, we're expecting to have also IPsec up there. So
hold on. So this is an OPI solution, or is this something else?
it is an OPI. I mean, right now we're implementing in OPI VPN bridge and testing. Actually, it is already implemented, but we're testing the ECMP functionality.
What are
we're
you testing it?
We're in private labs with IPUs.
So you're testing it and building it in private labs with IPUs.
Yes, we are testing. Yes, but we are planning to have it in OPI as we have the rest of the code today in VPN gateway.
I see. So I know which code you're talking about. Okay. Yeah. So again, he's looking for something that runs on all IPUs, DPUs, not just on one. And yeah, I think again, listen to the recording, and then we could decide what we want to focus on.
Yeah, and maybe this opportunity can be one good way to actually create a multi-vendor OPI VPN bridge, because right now we have it only for Intel IPU. But most of the code that we have there is generic, so only the vendors, the different vendors, they just need to implement a vendor plugin.
I understand, but that's exactly the point. We cannot go back to somebody who's turned to OPI and say, hey, we have a solution that works on one of the IPUs, DPUs, and go ahead and take it. No, that's
I'm not saying
make
that.
sure it
Yes,
works
yes.
on everything, and then say, hey, it works on everything. Please look at it.
I agree with you. I'm just saying it's a start. No, I'm not saying that he will go there and take it. No, that's for sure no. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot.
Who's sharing the screen?
Is that you?
I think it's Sridhar or Paul. One of the two.
It's Sridhar's screen.
That's me, yeah.
Sridhar, I cannot talk to you anymore. You're a Liverpool supporter? I cannot talk to you anymore. I'm sorry.
You're Man U supporter then.
So Alad, what do you think the mechanics should be of getting John Graham to present in this forum, the TSC forum?
Very simple. Please listen to the recording. If you want him to focus on something specific, because this guy knows a lot of stuff. So if you want to focus on something specific, let's make the plea to him to focus on something very specific and invite him over to speak about something very specific, because again, he has like 500 topics in his head, and I asked him to prioritize. So we need to focus on one or two use cases that he has.
Yeah, I think I would ask him to let's pick one
Yes.
use case that we could collaborate with him and his group in OPI to bring to fruition, right? As an example of a multi-vendor OPI deployed use case.
Okay.
And so he would kind of have to pick it. Of course, it could be informed by where we already are with things like ECMP and EVPN. But that would be the most constructive, I think. And would you be the point of contact, Alad, to schedule that?
Yeah, definitely. No, I've been in touch with him. No problem.
Okay.
Great. Is it, Tim, do you feel like that's something we should wait for Joe to schedule so he can listen in? Or...
I think we can get it scheduled. I doubt it would happen before Joe's back. So
okay.
I think that feels like it's a month away, probably, right? Or do you think he's that hot to get on top of it?
No, it's fine. He's working, right? He's actually building stuff. So I would say just listen to the recording that we already have. Whomever is interested, you can listen to a recording we already have. And then, as you said, focus on one thing and invite him back.
Okay. Well, if you reach out to him, Alad, why don't you propose like the first week of October, the first Thursday?
Okay.
I don't know that exact date, but that feels like the right time frame. Joe will be back. It'll give John some time to think about it and go back and forth with us if he needs to a few times. So.
Okay.
Okay, that was constructive, Alad. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yes, thank you.
Do we want to revisit any of the comments from Bob? We kind of abruptly ended that meeting last week because we ran out of time. Obviously, it would be better to do this with Bob in the room still, but one of my takeaways that sort of still scratches the back of my brain is that he was talking about using, DPDK as his sort of API for accessing the NIC and DPU assets or offloads. But we don't seem to address that at OPI, right? That we have DPDK, we have IPDK, we have DOCA, and we don't really talk about a unified API that allows you to move across these cards with a single approach. We see this at F5 where we're doing work in DPDK and we're doing work in DOCA, and we have divergent code because of that, and we're scratching our head trying to figure out what should we do because this isn't a good thing for us long term. And it feels like the kind of thing OPI should be addressing, and I don't hear us even talk about it. Does that concern anybody else?
I'll raise my hand and say yes, but you know my thoughts.
Yes.
I guess
So
from that
Dan,
point
since
of-
you're here today, maybe you could help me. And one thing I struggle with is understanding the relationship of IPDK and DPDK. Does IPDK effectively tuck in underneath DPDK?
It's the other way around. So DPDK is data plane, so it's the data plane underneath, and then our IPUs and DPDK both share a API on top called the table-driven interface, and that interface is meant to be device agnostic. And so it was designed so that you could tuck other data planes underneath it. And we have been working on a kernel implementation of that called P4TC, which is probably more TC than P4. But I think that got stuck in the kernel community. But I think that there is interest. As someone reached out to me last week to potentially propose a much simpler kernel interface that would be kind of more aligned to something dumb simple like a table-driven interface than a P4 and or TC interface. And I think that the issue with P4TC was that it was yet another software data plane in the kernel, which I don't know if anyone really needs. So, but to go to your point of like, gosh, we really need a unified interface. IPDK needs one too. We are not we're not working on a IPDK API. Like that's just way too many acronyms. But it would be amazing if the kernel could get its act together, and then we could port IPDK to that. We could port a DPDK implementation of a pipeline to that, and our IPUs could use it too. It'd be amazing. But we got hung up in the kernel community on that because of this, because of the way it was hosted with a software data plane in tow. So. So that's a long-winded status update. But yeah, do we see this as a problem? Absolutely. Been working on it for it feels like way too long, and that's where we're at.
So let me phrase it in a really sort of dumbed down way. So I'm trying to offload a flow, right, for hardware forwarding.
Yeah.
There are the semantics of RTE flow. I have analogs to that for DOCA. What will I find on Mount Evans?
You'll find something very similar to RTE flow. What you do on Mount Evans and what we can do in this table-driven interface is that you have a compilation step that you don't have in RTE flow that allows you to define the pipeline up front. And that compilation step generates tables that you could then program in runtime. And so this gets around the inflexibility problem, or what we have with OpenFlow, where we have to like add a Brazilian different structures so that people can get their stuff done. So that compilation step is really the difference. And I don't know if anyone was necessarily paying attention. We a long time ago we submitted into the kernel this thing called the match interface, and it was a match action semantic that is similar to the table driven interface, where you just have this compilation step, and then that gives you a set of it gives you a functional interface to bind to, and that's the equivalent of RTE flow. But instead of RTE flow gives you a couple different options on what your pipeline can be, they're almost always not what you need. This goes and solves that problem.
Okay. So I'll bring this back to Mark, probably unfairly. Is this sort of unified offload interface across these approaches, DOCA, DPDK, IPDK? Is this the kind of thing that the API work group could take a look at? Or, I mean, or do we just have to see sufficient interest, right? I mean, if nobody's interested in working on it, obviously it's not going to move forward. So
I'd rather do it differently. Two things. My experience with P4TC is that we could come up with something super great in OPI, and it would never get adopted outside of OPI. So I'd rather do it the other way, where if we could influence something that has that would be meaningful, either like the kernel or DPDK, then I feel like that would have that would have heft, that then we could say, hey, this new thing, this is what OPI is going to use, and we would back it, as opposed to
right. I do think tucking new functionality in existing vehicles is a cleaner path to adoption.
Yeah. It would just give you that momentum.
I guess you threw them both out there, kernel and DPDK. Do we think this kind of okay, not and or
undone, not two.
because that opens the debate, right? Should we be talking kernel or user land for this kind of an API?
I think the reason why we're motivated by the kernel is that we already have a user space API with this table-driven interface, and it's fine, right? It has multiple. It gives us multiple data planes. It's what everything in IPDK is built upon, and it's fine. But user space has a bunch of drawbacks. It makes it more difficult to adopt. And a kernel is going to add some like kernel dependencies down the line, which are annoying. But it makes it easier for someone to pop open a box and have the drivers be detected, or they load the drivers, and then the ecosystem just roots in on top. So that's ultimately the model, and sort of every day that we don't go and solve the kernel driver problem is another day that it just we're just like stuck with a user space solution. So I'd hate to go pick one and spend like a year on another user space solution and never solve the kernel problem. So I bring them up. I bring both of them up, but I would much prefer a kernel solution.
Okay. Thanks for your comments. Anybody else have any thoughts on this topic?
Well, I think it's something that needs to be unified, Tim. And yeah, you could do it with the API and with the protobuf definitions, and then you'd just have to have a translation layer underneath, which is what was talked about way back at the beginning of all this. But there's been little to no activity in the work group.
Yeah, I see that as well, Mark. Yeah, and I hear customers starting to worry about it, and I know we're struggling with it at F5. But we're up against the standard time to market versus doing things for the long game, and right now I'm losing that debate, and then we're going time to market. But eventually we'll have to back up and say, oh, we painted ourselves in a corner here. And maybe at that point we'll be able to bring some stuff to OPI. We'll see. I would be cool if we could just do it up front in OPI, but if people don't bring engineers, we can't do the work.
So I had a question for Dan. I think I'm familiar with the kernel match action work he referred to, if not something similar. I'm wondering, the version that I'm thinking of was not accepted. Do you have any opinions of what's changed since then?
I mean, for one, the person who submitted match back in the day is now in much more connected in the kernel community. It was one of the people that knacked the the P4TC. So
Yes, I know who you're talking about, and I think it is the same one I was thinking.
Yeah, it's fast event. Yeah. So I just pinged him to see if he would want to come into OPI and just talk about what he wants to do. He owes me one now after he knacked P4TC. So maybe but he did reach out to me and say, hey, if we were to do something like would you be supportive, and would OPI and IPDK be supportive? And it's like, yes, of course. Like,
okay. So he is thinking of reviving it for some other reason.
Yes. Yeah. So it's independently, he has the same motivations that I think we all do. Is that like, hey, it would be nice to have a kernel interface for these devices, and a kernel interface. TC Flower only goes so far and has a bunch of issues. So that's where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, my recollection of that, it's some years ago, is essentially it was the reason the proposal was not accepted was not so much on its technical grounds, but more it's similar but different to what you just described with P4TC. So I would see that the main barrier to moving forwards. But if it's being revived, I would be very interested to be involved a second time round if we think there's a good chance of success.
Yeah, no, I think the other thing that changed was that match did get knacked a long time ago because you don't have a software pipeline. Yes. And then we do the P4TC with our experience for a match, and they're like, we don't like your software pipeline. It's like,
I think
now
there
6
is a
years later.
chance. Yes,
What was that?
I think that is the fundamental issue. But if the thinking on that has changed, then yeah, let's discuss. This is we're probably going a bit tangent here, but thanks, Dan, and keep me in the loop.
Just for my education, Dan, what does the TC stand for in P4TC?
P4 traffic class. And TC traffic class has been so abused to be well beyond traffic classes now, and that was also another knock on it. Yeah.
And what was the time frame when all that played out?
I would say the team here. I wasn't involved in the submission, but the team here has been working on it for like a year and a half. So, and I think it just got, they just kind of, they were trying to get through the impasse at the NetDev conference in July. So, you know, maybe some people don't feel like it's dead yet, but, you know, I think there's some people just like John that are pretty dug in. So, timing wise, it would be good to, you know, say, hey, here's an alternative, as opposed to saying, well, we killed it and you're just stuck without it. But if we could lend some organizational heft to it, saying, well, we don't care, kernel community, what you do, but you have to do it for these reasons, because we need a single interface for DPU, IPU, software, whatever, then I think that would help it move along. So I think we did have Jamal come in and talk about P4TC and the TSC months ago. So, but it's been it's been a super long process without any results.
Were you trying to slip in a comment there, Simon? I think I talked over you.
No, I think Dan covered everything.
Okay, well, I've actually enjoyed our conversation this morning more than I thought I would. Are there any other topics we want to touch on this morning? Going once, going twice? Okay, well, I think we'll wrap it up a bit early then. And I guess we'll see everybody next week. And please, if you have a topic for next week, send it out on the Slack channel so that we can have it on the top of our list. I think, Mark, are you standing in for Joe? Should we mark Joe as present?
I guess you can.
I guess we can. I think Santanana said he wouldn't be here today, so.
I won't be next week because I'm on vacation for the next couple of weeks.
All right. Well, you will not be thinking about user land versus kernel, I bet. So good for you.
No, I won't.
Maybe we can have Chetan as Satananda, as a replacement of Satananda.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's fairly complete. Okay, thanks everyone for showing up this morning. This is what keeps the wheels turning.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.